Welcome, my friends, to the Quantum Shamans presented by MOSHI, the Ministry of Shamanic Healing and Integration, bringing you insights into the spiritual secrets of the mind and the universe around you. We are here to help you on your spiritual journey and path of healing. And now your hosts, David and Anthony.
Welcome to the Quantum Shamans presented by MOSHI. I'm your host, Anthony.
And I'm David.
Welcome. We're so happy to be here with the lovely, talented Dr. Sam. Hi, Dr. Sam.
Hi, you guys. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here. We're
here.
so excited. We've been waiting for you to get on here. We've been waiting.
Here.
We manifested you.
Yeah,
Oh
awesome.
my God, that means the world. Thank you.
Before we get started, David, are you going to, I can't say read because you're going to tell us. Are you going to tell us the MOSHI vision statement?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ministry of Shamanic Healing aims to help individuals heal from spiritual maladies stored as energy in the subconscious that manifests in the form of trauma, PTSD, physical illness, mental health issues, and addiction. These practices include, but are not limited to, yoga, breathwork, meditation and mindfulness practices, Reiki, sweat lodge ceremonies, sensory deprivation, sacred plants, and any other ritual healing we collectively decide to establish. We hold ritual healing for our community to heal in a safe space, as well as individual ritual healing tailored to the members of our collective for the purpose of intensive inner work. Our most important responsibility is to help our members integrate their collective and individual experiences to ameliorate their spiritual maladies and spread love for the betterment of mankind. Our belief is that our collective consciousness is God. Every living organism has a purpose and is essential for homeostasis. From the single-cell organisms to the observable universe, we're all connected and equally important. We all deserve love, respect, peace, harmony, and forgiveness. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love conquers all.
Love conquers all. Good, Dave.
Well said.
You're really getting good at this.
I know. Memorize that all.
Look at that. That's a lot of words.
I
that you
didn't
got.
look.
Yeah, not at all.
Got tripped up about
I
it.
thought you were. I was like, he's just about to look because it's like the pause was about 7 seconds, and I was like, he's about to look, and he was like, I got it.
Came through.
So good, so
Beautiful.
good. Dr. Sam, we're so
Yes.
glad
Oh my
you're
God,
here.
I'm so
Welcome,
happy to be here.
welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you.
We're so happy to have you here on this space with us, sharing your medicine.
Yeah.
So tell us about Dr. Sam. Who is Dr. Sam?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I just want to say, again, my gratitude for being here. As a chiropractor, I do a lot. I'm not the typical chiropractor, but the things that I always learned were based in the idea that the human nervous system, there's two things, right? The autonomic nervous system is sympathetic, which is fight or flight, or parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. And I always knew I had to get to that rest and digest state because I was not there for so long. And it wasn't until I met Mary and Anthony and through breath work and what they've been called to cultivate and teach us that I found my freaking parasympathetic nervous system. I know I did. And then David, who I've recently met, has brought Kava into Northeast Ohio, which has been desperately needed here, I think, just as a space for people to gather and do something else besides drink alcohol, which is we all need.
A healing space.
A healing space. A healing space.
Healing and hope.
Yeah.
Is what we're all about.
Absolutely. So the bringing my body into the parasympathetic nervous system. And so what came through to me today, I've been buzzing all day thinking about this. Like, what am I going to talk about? And I'm just like, I'm just going to tell stories because I think when we can hear the experience of others and what we've had is, some of the most healing integration that we can have. So, I don't know why I've been guided to start here because this has nothing to do with what I do. But
whatever calls to you, Sam.
It actually moves into some plant medicine. But I was in my office one day and I had a new patient, and this woman walked in, and there wasn't anything wrong. and she had this energy. She had something to her. And I didn't have to really do anything. Like usually somebody has a pain or somebody has an ailment, somebody has some emotional, there's something I have to work on, right? Nothing with this woman. So after like 2 or 3 visits, I'd tell her like, you don't really need to see me. I think you're my teacher. And she goes, what? And I go, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What are you sleep? What are you doing? Like, what is this? What is coming through to you that I am so drawn to? And she goes, oh, I know what you're talking about. I've been using these plant medicine sacraments for many years, and it's changed my life. So I said, sign me up, I'll be there. Just went in blindly, didn't know what the hell I was doing, didn't really want to know what I was doing because I know sometimes you can know too much about things biologically. So I went in, and it just completely opened my heart into allowing me to be a channel for people when they're in my office and when I'm with my friends. And help me not look at people as work, because unfortunately I was starting to dread interactions with humans because it was work to me.
Yeah.
So that was just freaking beautiful, and it's changed everything. So the fact that you guys have that in your doctrine as what you're helping bring through to people, as one of the many modalities, because through Anthony and Mary, I'm also like, I don't even need plant medicine. I have my breath. That's all I need, right? You can still have those same beautiful effects.
It's amazing what one experience can do to
Yes.
cause a 180-degree paradigm shift.
Spontaneous healing. Spontaneous healing. We get caught up in this identity of this
Something
ailment
clicks.
or the sickness. And if we, like you just said, if we truly believe in that one instant and we can change it, and it is going to change because we are this godlike consciousness, then it will change spontaneously.
You just had a energetic blockage you had to remove, and now you're
Exactly.
flowing.
Yep. Totally. Totally.
And now you're limitless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned the plant medicine sacraments. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about that? What is it?
I would love. I don't want to say the name of it, not because, but just for my own with my credentials, I can't. I don't want to go into that. But I will share it with you after, and then whoever is open to wanting to know more, please come talk to us. But it was a huge heart opener. But moving forward, what people know that there's something different in your energy field when you meet them, and you get to kind of see, well, what is going to be perfect for them. So for you, like a lot of people just need to breathe, and a lot of people just need to some people I know just come to me for physical touch. Because they don't experience it in any realm, and they just need, I'm just working on them on a physical level. They just need that. So the medicine comes through in so many ways, but for specifics, please come talk to us.
For specifics, please come talk to us.
Yeah, plant medicines are so wonderful because it's just the key to unlock the door to all of that.
Absolutely.
Because we're so cut off from it in the Western world. We're so
Yeah.
conditioned to be in fear of it. And, there's just been propaganda for the last 60 years, 70 years.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yes.
Since about
But,
1966.
since the beginning of time, every culture and religion has had their own special relationship with plant medicines.
Right. It's here for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's here for a reason.
So you mentioned I have to be careful with my credentials. Let's go into that. Back to the first question.
I knew you
Who
were
is
gonna
Dr.
grill me on
Sam? Who is Dr. Sam? We know that you're a chiropractic physician here in Ohio.
Yes.
What else? Tell us.
Yeah. So when I'll tell you my story, but my the way that I get to go into a room with people is I get to fully integrate, their physical being, their emotional, spiritual being, and their chemical being. So some people come in with skin issues, right? That's kind of what I look at as the chemical. Some people come in with a lot of depression or anxiety. That's more of an energetic, mental. And then most people come into me with physical ailments because my credentials are DC. So that's what people think. They think back pain, neck pain, all of that, all of those things. But I'll go back to my beginnings. I grew up, I had a freaking awesome life. I just still have a great life.
Awesome.
I love both my parents so much, and they definitely connected me first to the importance of just nutrition, and what I put in my body is going to be a external output of what people feel and see and understand. So I would go to my friend's house for sleepovers, and I would get sick as a dog because I was eating the typical American diet, the SAD diet, the standard American diet. And I would get sick as a dog. So I'd be trying to be friends and, have sleepovers, and I would just get sick. Meanwhile, in my cabinets, it was like granola and like dried apricots, so it was just bland in that sense. But
No
I'm so
ho-hos
grateful.
and Twinkies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then, I grew up and had that, and I was a perfectionist to a point where when I started got into Ohio State, there was a lot of drinking, there was a lot of escapism because I wanted to be perfect. Why? I have no idea, because I thought that was the answer. I thought that was happiness. Jim Carrey had a quote, was like, I just wish everybody would be millionaires and be really famous so then they could finally understand it. It's never there. It's not there at all. I love that. So anyway, I was a nut perfectionist. And I actually decided that my major was health information management systems, and I wanted to be in a hospital. So I started working at the medical center, and I do totally believe that there is a time and a place for medical intervention. Thank God if you broke your arm or you're poisoned, get your butt to a hospital, but maybe not the first step for everything, right? So I'm working in the hospital, and I remember I was coding at the time. I was medical coding, which is basically how you doctors in the hospitals get paid, which hospitals are the fourth leading industry in America, which I think we should wonder why that is. And it's how they get paid. So you have to be very good at it because you want them to get the most money from the insurance company so they get paid the most. So I remember one day my boss is coming in, she's handing me these files to help her code, and she has a Snickers bar in one hand and a Diet Coke in the other, and she is a smart, intelligent woman, and she put her notes down and she goes, man, I just can't figure out why everybody's getting type 2 diabetes these days. And I look at her and I was like, I wasn't religious. I was like, that's God. God just came through to me through this woman and said, what the heck are you doing here? Change. And everything. Because I would talk, I'd be in class and I'd be like, why are you teaching me about this? I was bullied for not being vaccinated my whole life, which, is fine, but I was bullied for it at Ohio State, whatever. And, so then I was just like, well, shit, I got to change my whole life. So I decided to go to chiropractic school. My grandfather was a chiropractor. He had a box on the wall, and he just asked people to give him donations, which I think is so beautiful. And I never knew him, but eventually he got to a point where he was just putting his hands on people and doing something called attunements and really helping harvest sacred energy. So anyway, I went to chiropractic school. I was like, whatever, I'll try this. I don't know what else I should do. So I did that, and it was still a lot of sympathetic dominance. I still realized, like, oh, I don't want to have 5-minute interactions with patients, crack, diagnose, like, here's the codes, go. I don't like that, didn't resonate with me. So after I graduated, I had a freaking awesome teacher who no longer practices, but was in Lakewood, Ohio. And I grew up in Columbus, so to come to Cleveland, I was like, oh, Cleveland's an armpit. What am I going to do there? It's cold, and everybody drinks too much, and the teams suck. I'm like, oh. And then I got up here, and I was like, oh, my God, I love Cleveland. I love it. I love the people. I love the lake. It's just raw. Like, I love Cleveland. And so many people I think they know they need healing, and there's opportunities for healing, and it's just, I found my people. So I love Cleveland. I love my teacher. And then long story short, I knew it was time to shift. I was going to move. I decided not to move. And I opened up my own practice in Lakewood. And it's cash only, which, because insurance doesn't understand anything that I do, which is fine. But, going back to how I look at the body is, a lot of people come in with physical ailments. Well, not to be pompous, but when you come in with a low back, great. We can work on your low back. Your low back's not the problem. What's really going on?
Yeah.
What's in there? So a lot of, on a simple level, it's our foundation, right? It's our stability. So a lot of times I don't feel safe, right? I'm moving. Maybe my life is moving. Maybe I'm changing jobs or actually moving from house to house. Or maybe I just never felt safe in my own house and my foundation is shifting. So that's kind of more of a basic-ish thing to look at. And then when I do get to physically work on the body, I truly believe that health can only exist in a physically open body. Our physical body is a representation of what we are susceptible to bringing through and receiving. So if we're pain, I'm going to focus on the pain. It's hard for me to, get signal through, and just like that TV, like the energy's always there, but if I'm blocking it and turning off the TV, then it ain't going to come through. So, I don't just adjust people. Tony's almost tapped out when I'm working on him.
Yep.
Like I get in there because it has to be through the muscle. The muscle holds on to so much energy, so much, it's where the body puts crap. It's where the body puts herbicides and pesticides and metals and whatever. And so when I do that on people, especially for the first time, I tell them, you're not going to like me the next 2 days. You might have to go lay in bed and take off work because we are moving things through and you will have a heavy detox. And, that's... Are you in? It's not for everybody, right? And obviously I'm going to make a difference for when I'm working on somebody like David and Tony versus, my 85-year-old grandmother patient. But,
right.
but
I hope so.
Yeah. So I had a wonderful teacher in that. His name is Eugene Peterman. He's actually in Beechwood. And he's one of, like, you guys and Eugene are the reason I'll never leave Cleveland because I don't know who else does it. He studied in Thailand for 6 years, and I'm crying almost every session because he's releasing so much. And if I can just cry and let go, then it just moves right through and I'm not resisting and surrendering. So he taught me just so much, just being able to, I'm a people pleaser. Like I was always a people pleaser. So I don't want people to hurt. I don't want to, but you got to go through it. Something has to die in order for new life to be reborn. So that definitely happens once a week for me at UG.
Pain is inevitable and suffering is a choice.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I love that. Yep. And I think too, I always hear really sad freaking stories. Everybody has a sad story, but when you can look back at it now and see the medicine in it and the actual beauty in it and the necessity, that is so healing and that is life-changing. So, everybody wants to kind of own that sad story, I think, and invest their identity in it. And I think once you can shift to the gratitude piece of it and knowing why it happened and how it's part of your sacred contract to help fulfill something in your life, wow. But that's a hurdle, and that's okay. That's okay. Some people are meant to get over hurdles in this lifetime, and some are not. So yeah, and I'll go into just. I just have a couple of new patient stories on the top of my head. I had a woman come in last week, and her skin was red and cracky, and just like she's a beautiful woman, and her face was just being taken over by this what the dermatologist called dermatitis. Cool. What's dermatitis?
Inflammation of the
inflammation. What is that telling me? Nothing.
Yeah.
So, no creams worked, no gels, no oral medicines were working. And because it was something that she had to go into, right? I love how you always say symptoms are messengers. It was something that she had to work in and heal. So she's telling me all about it. She's telling me when it happens, why it happens, the basic medical, what she thinks I'm going to ask, what all the other people asked her. And I said, okay, that's helpful. Thank you. What's going on in your life? She's like, I don't know. I'm just stressed. Like I got this life. And I'm like, okay. And thank God her husband was there. He goes, honey, what about your dad dying last year? And I said, okay, that's a huge, big change, stress in your life. And I'm like, please, yeah, tell me a little about that. And long story short, her father was diagnosed with a very treatable form of cancer. And the person he was married to, her stepmom, was not a very nice person and was basically trying to kill him because she wanted him dead so she could have his fortune. Long story short. So right now, this woman with the skin issue is coming in telling me she's fighting this stepmother in court for her father's life, what he, his money and the remains of who he was. But she's just freaking upset because she doesn't have her dad, obviously, and with a lot of other emotions. So my first thing is, boom, liver, right? Liver's anger, frustration, aggression. That's where it holds. But what do I know? I always tell people when I'm talking to them, I'm like, I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I get to go in and I can ask your body and talk to it, but like, I'm just guessing too. Like, so I'm going to look at your liver. Do you know anything about anything show up for your liver? No. So, okay, great. So I get her on the table and, I was trained in something called nutrition response testing, which, yeah, we all have techniques and names. It all comes from sacred knowledge, right? Things that have been used for years and years. So what I get to do is I get to lay people on the table and I get to use something called applied kinesiology or muscle testing. And if I test any muscle, so I could test David's deltoid, his quad, his hamstring, and they're all going to be strong. It has nothing to do with him being strong. It just is the neurological connection between the brain and the muscle. So with that being said, say I'm David's arm up and I'm testing his deltoid. So if I put a little bit of pressure on an organ that is tired, inflamed, stressed out, and I cut off the circulation to that organ, cut off its blood flow, its nutrition, all that, all of the muscles that I test David on are going to go weak because all of it's like jumping in really cold water. Your body doesn't care about losing a finger or toe. Those are going to go first. All the energy is going to go to your heart. All the energy is going to go to your liver. All the things that the body really wants to protect and bring that flow to. So I go through organs and I just ask the body, all right, organ, what organ is tired? What organ's weak? And then after that, I actually get to ask the body, there's something called a priority mode. I get to go in and see what's the priority. So for her, that time I was actually right, and it was liver. So, with that, she might, we just talked through it, right? There's aggression leaving your body. I actually get to physically go in there and adjust her liver and release it because there's a capsule around all of our organs, and sometimes it's just not working right because it's so tight and inflamed and angry. In that case, angry. Mm-hmm. So we got to release that. We got to go into, I got to ask her body, is there anything else in her childhood that brought about this unresolved anger? Is there anything in past lives that brought about this? I don't always go into past lives because I don't want, even though it does come through to me, I do see things. It doesn't always seem the most important to me because all we have is the present moment. For some people, it's very healing and necessary, but I don't want that to be the main focus. I want it to be on the present moment. Even though it is freaking cool to see that for your own and be able to have that conversation. It's some milk thistle for help, which milk thistle is, again, a beautiful plant that's here for a reason that helps detox the liver. So in her case, yeah, she needed the milk thistle and we're good to go. And I'm going to see her in a couple weeks and I'm anticipating she hardly has anything left. And hopefully that's the case. I don't know. So, there's always a story, and I would not have been able to get to that story without loving her unconditionally and knowing that I am her and we've all been each other in lifetimes and without judgment, because that was we all judge people. Mm-hmm. We've all judged people. But the truth is we've all been sinners and we've all been saints and we've all been killers and we've all been killed and we've all been all of those things, those archetypes. And it's not about hiding them. It's not about trying to put on this, facade that I am perfection. It is about bringing your story in full integration and being able to, use that as your gift. Use that as your message to people. So I think it was Carl Jung who used the idea of these archetypes and not hiding them. Like, I have a male friend who he's a friend and a patient, and he was raped as a child. He didn't have that idea until we started doing the work, or that remembrance of being raped. But he's like, I used to get made fun of for those, and I can't, because I'm telling you the story. I'm telling you the story here first. Like, you can't make fun of me because I know it. I am it. So it's scary to be in your truth, and it's hard to talk about really hard things, but we've all been there in different masks and faces, and in some way we've all been there. So that importance of being yourself and being true is so beautiful and healing.
Yeah,
It's
not
freaking hard.
being the things that happened to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I am not what
Yes.
happened to me.
Exactly.
Process it and let
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Totally. Totally. I'll just share the other one that came on through the top of my head. This is actually a friend of mine. He is gay, and the same thing with him. He was like, nobody can make fun of me now because I'm gay, and like I love being gay, but like when I was 12, I didn't know what was going on, and everybody's making fun of me. Same idea, but he is actually a doctor, and one of the only hospitals in the world that is helping people who really want to change their identity, who think they're male and the calling to be female. He's actually a doctor doing that. So he taught me a lot, because I had my own judgments and beliefs, and he showed me so much beauty and love in what he's doing, and I'm so grateful for him. I love him so much. And but he was kind of telling me a little bit of a story, and because I knew this guy, like, for him, he's 26, he's young, he was chosen to be a doctor. I'm like, what's your story, dude? Like, how did this happen? And he told me his grandfather was actually gay, and that was in the 70s. So that was not cool in the 70s. You were right. So he actually was married to his grandmother. They had 2 babies, and 2 years later, he's like, dude, I can't live this life anymore. I'm escaping. He moved to Florida, and he's actually, unfortunately, became an alcoholic because he couldn't take the pain of his guilt and his, the judgment he was facing and everything coming forth, because he abandoned his family, but he had to be himself. So yeah, again, grandfather became an alcoholic, and I said, Mikey, you're doing this work because the lineage, I forget what you used before that line of the ancestral lines,
generational trauma.
Yes, you're coming through, and you are the best version of your grandfather in this place. You're doing his work. He's right beside you every single day, helping you in this space with these people, because he couldn't freaking imagine that this is happening right now in this world. There's no way that would have been happening in his lifetime, and he's with you right here, just in that space, helping you in this lifetime, and it's like undeniable, just so undeniable. So that was beautiful. That was a beautiful story.
I have similar. We have a friend who's a member of MOSHI, and they're also transgender, and something really clicked a few weeks ago when we were talking. So he was born a woman, and when she was 5 years old, as a little girl, had a horrible sexual trauma, and so the divine masculine took over the divine feminine to protect that wounded little girl. And all they needed was to release that and have their energy balanced back out, because we're all the perfect balance of masculine and feminine. Everything is always in perfect balance.
Right.
So there's just things that unbalance us.
Absolutely.
But those traumas can be released without having to have surgical and medical intervention.
Right.
It can.
Right.
It can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like how Sam
everybody's
was saying,
already perfect.
Exactly.
You just unbalanced.
That's what
Right.
I say. Like a lot of
Love
people
that.
will argue with me, like, I'm imperfect. Like, okay, you can think that, but I'm kind of on the side of creation and God. And I would say I don't create anything imperfect. That's not the truth for me. That's the mindset that creates that. I rather live in a mindset where everything's perfection to me. And I kind of have the same idea. When I work with someone, I let my judgments go away, and I like to see them as the perfected self, the perfected being, the Christed self. So when I'm working with someone, I'm not looking at someone that has problems. I'm looking at a perfected being that just has imbalance. That's it.
Yeah.
And then we can create balance through our own. And then just like how you were talking before, like even with muscle testing, all those things,
Yeah.
that's bringing in, that's tying in your intuition and your medicine gift. And I've had like the beautiful wonder to be able to share medicine with you in that space. And I watch you, I'm really sensitive. I can see the connections to what's coming in and what you're paying attention to. And just like you said, well, Sam doesn't know anything. I say the same thing. Anthony doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
But the things I
He's a
connect to
channel.
know everything.
Right.
And they can open us up to that.
And what I love about what you and Mary do in your space is that, and something I want to work on, is that you guys allow that individual to have that experience, right? Like, of course, you're integrating, you're feeling and bringing, and you're calling the energy into the space, but that person themselves gets to see and go through exactly what they're going through, that's why we have so many of the same people that are drawn to us, because they're doing that. With me, it's, I know people are hopefully having some thoughts and things are integrating after, but I'm kind of telling them and doing it in a way. So I really respect and love that you guys just let that, and I know you see and bring things in too, but I think it's so important to have that experience for yourself first. And, actually, let me go back to when I was like 8, and I had teachers were like, Mom and Dad, put her on something. Like, she's too much. She's like, probably a little neurodivergent. We've talked about this. And
Not probably.
yeah.
I'm aware. Totally true.
And so, put her on something. And of course, I told you my parents were granola crunching hippies, and they're like,
Yep.
Yeah, right, woman. So they took me to a chiropractor who was using the applied kinesiology, and he's like, oh, Mom was super you could tell Mom was probably super deficient in folic acid B12 when you were in utero. Remind me to talk about in utero too, with emotions and things. So anyway, super deficient in folic acid B12. So I started taking folic acid B12. I was a new person. And in that doctor's office, he had a woman that practiced Reiki. And
this is when you were 8?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
So that's really new at that time. Not that you're old. But,
yeah. She was older. She was been with Native Americans her whole life, and
Yeah.
she learned she brought a lot of their medicine through.
Did she call it Reiki?
She did.
Okay.
She
'Cause
did,
that would be
actually.
odd because when you just told me that and I could feel the energy line, I wonder if she calls it that just so it's recognizable.
I bet.
There's so many
Possibly.
forms of energetic hand
Yeah.
healing. It's just Reiki is more commercialized and
Right.
people who can identify
it,
with the
yeah.
word, right?
Sure. So yeah, that's funny. I see her pretty frequently, so I'd love to talk to her about that. But I'm 8, and I'm like, maybe 10. I'm laying on her table, and I'm like seeing pyramids and Egyptian heliograph. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then, so that was my first experience of like really getting into that certain place in your nervous system, and then having that healing happen. But then continuing in age, like narcissism happens, and I'm going to do this, and it's about me, and that's why I wanted to go to Ohio State and have that degree and be in a hospital because that's what I thought was best. And then I was there, and I was getting sick, emotionally sick in a lot of ways. But just the idea of like we have the power to change, to heal, to spontaneously heal ourselves.
Yep.
We have that. And you guys really, reminded me again to be in that place of like, oh my gosh, I can just breathe and do this and ask and receive, and all of these things can happen just through me. So I am always trying to integrate that too, of like giving them the power, because sometimes I'm like, I'm talking about nutrition with them, and I'm talking about but letting them receive it is huge. Letting them have that ownership and power, if you will, over their system. The one point I did want to hit on was in utero.
I was just going to ask you,
Yeah,
Sam,
thank you.
in utero. Now, you asked me to remind you, and I was tapping my finger, reminding myself about in utero.
I love it. So there is a point. A lot of times when I'm working on anybody, the hypothalamus point comes up a lot, and the hypothalamus is on a chemical level, is the part in our brain that talks to adrenals, thyroid, ovaries, prostate. It tells everybody to get the show on the road and let's make these hormones and make everybody, work how they're supposed to. On a spiritual, animalistic level, if you will, the hypothalamus tells us if we're safe or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's everything. So hypothalamus shows up a lot because most people have this basic belief that they are not safe, and 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, I trace it back to in utero. And I love how you talk about that remembrance of being in utero. I want to hear that again. But so, they are that cord going between their parent and them is not only just a nutrition cord, it's an energy cord. They're feeling everything this person's feeling, right? So if I'm a little bit, of course, first of all, I have a freaking baby in my belly, so I'd be nervous as hell because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm trying to keep this thing alive. It's a new thing. It's beautiful, but it's a little scary. But then imagine they're wondering where their husband is at night, or their husband's going to anything that their parent was feeling, they can pick up on. So most of the things, a lot of the things that show up in this lifetime for them are things that they just did to try and stay alive at that time. So most of the things that come up were just survival mechanisms. You're judging somebody else because it's your survival. Because if you don't look and feel like them, you're going to get bullied, or you're not going to feel. It's so much of it is survival. And when your nervous system understands that, it's like a relief. Like, oh, I don't need that anymore. Thank you for that tool. Yeah, I'm safe. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, how I understood life at that time, but I'm ready to let that go. So it's just so beautiful. I think that when they can see the story, of how in this physical world things they needed at one time, came to be that. So even cancer, what is cancer? Cancer is a group of narcissistic cells who said, I'm going to screw you guys, screw the body. I'm going to do this on my own, and I'm going to look the way I want and do what I want. It's a form of narcissism in the body. And when you look at it simply, there's ego and there's God. There's ego or that Christ-like consciousness or nature, whatever you want to call it. So where in your life, if I am that cancer patient, where in my life is there narcissism? Is it all about me? Is it, what am I feeding into, or what am I, I'm filling their cup first before I'm filling my own, which actually is a form of narcissism in a crazy way. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's such an interesting thing to look at, these personality identities within these dis-eases, right? So yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah. I think of it mostly as energetic confusion.
Yeah.
I try to run away from the word narcissist because it's so widely overused.
Yes, totally.
And there's usually narcissists pointing at others and calling them narcissists.
Oh, yeah.
I call them rogue.
Rogue? That's one way to put it.
Yeah, cells go rogue. When your body has a stress response, instead of dying, those cells go rogue and mutate and do weird things.
Energetic confusion. They don't know what's going on anymore. So what are they doing? They're going into a state of survival.
Exactly.
And in that state of survival, it thinks that it can't trust everything that's around it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of really intense too. And I do a lot of work with people in utero now. That's something that's common with me now since my own discoveries of my own traumas.
And you can remember things. I remember you talking about that. You can remember.
Yeah, I have memory of being in my mother's womb. I can remember what it felt like. I remember her voice, the other voices, the sounds. Just how it felt and how it felt like to be in there, and I could feel all of her fear. All of her fear, all of her worry, all of her pain. And luckily, some of that gets a little bit blocked, a little buffered by the placenta. The placenta actually creates a buffer. Like, so there was toxins and things in her body that actually I was protected from pretty well. I was aware of at that time. Because we're at full consciousness. Our consciousness never changes.
Yeah.
That's forever. That's eternal. But we're experiencing a body that goes through different stages. So, a baby has its full consciousness. When I look into baby's eyes now, it's just amazing. It's not like what it was before I was awake and could be aware of these things.
Right.
I would look into a baby's eyes and just be like, oh, it's a baby. It's dumb. It doesn't know anything. It's going to poop its pants. And now when I look at babies and even small children, I can become aware of the level of consciousness that is behind that. To see that, I can talk to people who are neurodivergent, like severely neurodivergent, to points where, we call this autism or a problem in people that can't live on their own. And I can go into there and I can access that consciousness within them. I can find that. We have a really good friend, by the way. You might have met her on a live stream or something before, a Light Club. Her name's Brianna Burgess.
Yes, I love Brianna.
Yeah, Brianna Burgess, an amazing person, and a huge change and vast opening has happened for her, because for people like that, they're not seen. They're never seen. They just are given this diagnosis as they're different, and even their own parents can't see. Her own parents are unaware of her change, her vast change, because they can't see it because they're
But really, it's a
cut off.
superpower.
Yeah. Yeah, neurodivergence is totally a superpower for all of us, because I know I can feel that. So I'm really sensitive to nervous system energy, and I know that right away. I know right as soon as I met you, I'm like, oh, another neurodivergent person. And that can be a big word for some people, neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? It just means that my neurology doesn't work typically. Right. It's atypical neurology moving. And so that can show up as symptoms for some people. Absolutely. Like how you were feeling, like I had to be a perfectionist. Otherwise, I don't feel good. Exactly. I'm not right. This isn't good enough.
Yes.
That's fear. What brings that forward? I'm afraid I'm not good enough. So we're all kind of driven by fear. Like
absolutely.
At the deepest level, that's all they'll know.
Spicy.
What's that?
I like the term neurospicy.
That's what I tell somebody. I'm like, ooh, this is a spicy muscle I'm getting in there. I'm going to use that. You're neurospicy right now.
Hi, my name's Anthony. I'm neurospicy.
I think one of the, it's almost, I'm going to pose it as kind of a question, but another big thing that people come in with is the inability to understand why somebody in their life won't change. And the answer, because how can you answer that, right? But
I can't.
Okay. I want to see what you think of my answer, Anthony.
What's your answer?
My answer is this idea that in their life, they're just not, I don't want to say as conscious, but it's just not in their consciousness to understand what they did or why they did it and where you're at. It's almost like if I was to go in and steal a ball from a 5-year-old and they're like mad at me, well, clearly they're going to be mad at me. And that's like how your mom is acting because you did this, and she's mad at you because she can't consciously grasp that it's not in her lifetime. It's not in her lifetime. What do you tell people when somebody, like, when they're like, why don't they get me, or why can't they change, or like...
Well, it's always kind of different because I'm an intuitive, and everyone's a little bit different for the reasonings why that happens. But typically, it's not the external that needs to change. Everything in your world happens inside of you. So if you have this need for something outside of you to change, and you think that's what's most important, that's the first mistake. Because the truth is, you create your world. Everything how are we understanding each other right now? I'm not happening outside of you. You're perceiving me inside of you. So that's where the perception happens. All the perception is your whole world happens in here. So if I'm saying you got to change, and if you don't change, I can't be happy, I'm disempowering myself.
Yes.
That's the ego mind externalizing itself
Because
it can't see itself. And perhaps the thing that I want to change in you is something judgmental I need to change in me.
Absolutely.
Who am I to say you need to change? You can tell me that you want to change, and I can help you to do that.
Right.
But it's not up to me to walk over and say, well, you're broken and you should be different. Because all I see is perfection.
Yes.
So when I see someone and I become judgmental and think that they need to change, because it happens, I'm a human being, I become aware right away, like, well, why do I think that? maybe they're perfect and I need to change
Right.
because I'm the one being triggered. So it's always pointing inward to the trigger. Whatever triggers you is your greatest medicine.
Absolutely.
Shows you where you're not
love
free.
That. I love that idea.
And people just think that if they let that thing go, they are letting go of their identity.
Right. Right.
Like, and people just can't. I mean, they identify so deeply with their traumas or their
Absolutely.
experience,
I know I have.
and they
Yeah.
just think they'd be letting themselves go if they let that go.
Yeah.
But
And
Where you are,
You're
you're letting the idea of self go.
Yes.
And that's the terrifying part.
But
Yeah.
because you're letting something die. And
Yeah.
we need there needs to be death in order for there to be rebirth.
Right. It's a cycle.
Yes.
It's always happening.
Yes.
We don't worry about seasons when they happen. When the tree loses its
Exactly.
leaves,
I love that
it's not
analogy.
dead. It's just
Yep.
changing. It's just flowing. Allow yourself to flow.
Right.
That's a lot of the times, like, pre-awakening, I had this idea that I could get somewhere. Like I would get somewhere and it would be better than where it is.
Yeah.
And not paying attention to, wait, now is all there is, this moment. And I love to ask people, what was the best moment of your life? And they'll tell me, I'm like, what about this one? And then they start to think, like, would you think maybe this could be the best moment of your life because it's the only one that exists? What if you treated it, loved it, and respected it that way? What do you think could happen?
Exactly.
I feel like I die multiple times a day.
Me too,
I
man.
wake up a completely different person.
Yeah, we kind of call it like
every single day,
deconstruction and
I love it,
construction.
and I never know what I'm going to wake up to.
Yeah.
Like, huh,
I don't worry about it. Yeah, me
Love
too.
that openness.
this feels somewhat familiar.
Yeah, deconstruction and construction happens really quick for me.
It's bringing about the order, and it's in every respect, right? So like people have like say they have like parasites or heavy metals, which are all things we can kind of look at. Well, where does that parasite allow itself to live? In something that is disorderly, and something that is maybe a people pleaser, right? Come on in, I'll host you. I'm a perfect host. Like, just take, I'm not in order because I'll say yes to you and I'll put everything aside because I need you to be happy first. That's a beautiful problem, I guess, because it's beautiful that you are willing to give so much, but you will fall out of order and there will be death because you are not putting your energy first. You're not putting yourself first.
And it comes into, why don't you love you?
Exactly.
What is it about you that you don't love? What part of you isn't being loved and honored? What need isn't being met? That's typically why, like Mary dealt with a lot of that and still does.
Sure.
It's part of her trauma echo that's coming through is finding
Yeah.
self-worth and
Right.
helping other people.
Absolutely.
Which I totally love helping other people, but I don't find my self-worth in it. I don't say, hey, Anthony, you're so awesome because you help other people. I say, I'm awesome because I'm alive. That's how it feels. And then that makes me look at everyone else as the beauty of the one living energy of all things and just this flowing different expression. And as I continue down my journey, that just becomes more alive in everything that I'm around. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful
We're
thing to
awesome
watch.
because we are love.
Yes.
Right.
You just brought up self-worth, and that just brought me to a point. A lot of people have very tight stomachs or just like GI issues in general, right? And, like a lot of times, I have IBS, I'm like, okay, what is that? And it's just like irritable bowel. Great. What does that mean? I have no idea. Do you know? No. Like, it's just this general blanket term.
Generally, parasympathetic dominance is what causes it.
Yes. So it's exactly. So a lot of times I'll find I'll go here because they say they have like a tight stomach. Sometimes it makes them feel like they have anxiety. Sometimes it makes them feel like they're having a heart attack and they're really not. And you go up in here and it is so damn tight. Like, I encourage everybody to go on like this left side and just feel yourself. Like, why are we not touching ourselves more? Because we can do so much of our own work, which I love teaching and healing people about. But definitely one point is the stomach, right up under the rib cage. And a lot of times I will find the person who is having the irritable bowel or the acid reflux. First off, stop taking your Tums, in my recommendation, because it's making the problem worse.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but in a form, I'll always ask the body, can you tell me what energy is behind this? And a lot of times it is self-worth. They are not in that, because the stomach's going up to the diaphragm. And what is breath? It is my own, that is my most powerful thing that I do first, but I'm not breathing. How many people do you talk to and you realize you're not freaking even breathing?
Yeah. Yeah, well, 9 out of 10 people or more have an inverted breathing pattern.
Yeah.
Due to being in that parasympathetic dominant,
Right.
Or the sympathetic dominant mind.
Exactly.
Being in that space. Being
Yes.
in that space just does all that stuff. It shuts off the ability for the body to digest because it's ready to perform.
Right.
It needs to take care of itself.
Right.
It changes the way we think. It changes everything that's happening in our body. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It happens. It has to happen so we can survive. But we're never been taught how to process our emotion. Process how we feel. So we walk around our whole lives. Like I walked around my whole life, and that's what led into my illness, was just all of the trapped emotion. I had no idea what to do with it, and I didn't think it was normal to cry or let go. I thought crying was a bad thing. Like, oh, that person's crying. Like, we should stop them from crying. We even traditionally live in a society where if someone cries, what's the first thing we do? We grab that tissue box and shove it right under their face.
Yes.
Like, why don't we encourage them to cry?
Yes.
I'm going to encourage you
Right,
to
why
flow
don't we hold
that.
each other and cry with them?
Yeah, can we cry together?
Yeah,
It's a beautiful thing. Let's get a
exactly.
group of people together. Let's all create a loving, energetic womb for us to grow. Like I love that. It was deeper than that. It was even deeper than her emotions. I watched all this energy kind of just come out of her, and she just looked at her thumbs. It was like, what is that? I was like, oh, I don't know. I just do what I'm asked.
Love it.
Anthony doesn't know.
Yep.
It just happens.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the same thing. We have similar gifts in that area where we
Totally.
can see nervous systems.
Right.
Because we figured that out pretty early on when you were working on Mary in front of me, and I could see a blockage happening at the same time. And we came in there and we kind of did a tandem thing, and boom, something blew out through her, and it was so
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh, I love working on people with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's so like working with other people, like these healing circles that I'm
Yeah.
starting to understand. I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, not only can you reach, a more of a mass audience, but if I'm working on David, you're getting something through that because you're David in one shape or form or another. So what he's feeling, what he's experienced, and then his integration after is medicine for everybody that's in that community watching that experience. It's, I love it. I love it.
We've had some incredible systemic healing happen just with our discussion groups with MOSHI.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
40
can't
people just sharing medicine.
wait. Yep.
And it's just, it's
What's next? I've had many visions. I've had lots of visions.
thousands
and
of people in
these,
the field.
Yeah, these healing circles,
Yeah.
creating circles, centrifugal kind of design is what it shows me. Like not just one circle, but multiple circles of people. It looks kind of like this energetic bullseye that happens.
Sacred geometry.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
It's like my self-portrait.
yeah,
Yeah. I love it.
no doubt about it. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll be doing some stuff soon in the future.
Absolutely.
I know we've already been kind of lightweight planning it, and
Yes.
it started. That's all it takes is us putting attention into it, and then it starts to grow and expand, just like this,
Right.
just like this coming
Right.
here.
Totally.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's amazing. I will say the only other piece of this just came through, a piece of medicine that I like to use too is actually bringing somebody. So, for example, if Tony has tired kidneys and there might be some symptoms there, then this medicine that comes through is actually giving him desiccated kidney, right? Which is a healthy kidney from a different animal that was, lived a good life. And then now we're using that physical energy to be put into a capsule so he can take. So a lot of times what really can help people too is this nutrition through an animal that, hey, I tell people your kidneys are so tired, you need to borrow a cow's for a little while in order to remember and build your cellular memory back to what it should be. So I like to use those things a lot. And also, of course, the use of herbs. So when he opened a kava bar, and the other one is in Lakewood right down the street from me, I was familiar with kava and I've used it in some way, but I can't wait to bring that into
Kratom is another wonderful
Kratom.
plant medicine.
I can't wait to learn
Plant ally.
more about
Can't say
that.
medicine.
Plant ally. I love it. So because it's, most of the time I will tell you, to somewhat end on this note, is that when people walk in through the door, the biggest thing that is coming through is just, we got to shift this nervous system. The body cannot heal in sympathetic dominance. The only thing the body cares about in sympathetic dominance is running from the bear that's 5 feet behind me or the gun that's held to my head, because that is what the body perceives the stress as. It could be good stress. Like, yeah, I'm a high end doing this and I got a great job and I'm making all this money, but I got 50 things going on. You might as well have a bear behind your back. That's what that's the same hormones and the same neuronic connections running through you are the same things, that you perceive as good stress. It's killing you, right? So the biggest thing that we need to bring about is a shift in our nervous system and a shift in parasympathetic, rest and digest, which I truly believe allows spirit, allows your true identity, your sacred contracts, the messages coming through to really come through in a message of love and compassion, which is what we all are at the root of it. That's all we are.
I hope.
And it all starts with learning how to breathe.
Yes. Yes.
It's the first thing we do when
Simple
we get
and
here.
beautiful.
Yes.
Doc pulls you out, smacks you on your little bottom. I'm here. And it's so loud, it's so bright. I remember that too, by the way.
That's pretty.
I can remember
incredible.
Birth. Yeah. We all will have that capability. I don't think it's like just for me. I don't think that. I'm still very
I
early.
felt the frequency coming through as you were talking about it. I was getting flashes of my own.
I think we'll all remember that, and then we'll remember things like our past lives, which aren't past, they're just parallel realities.
Yes.
And the more that we're open to receive the energy of those things, it kind of weaves us together, because there's all kinds of teachings, learnings, things that we didn't process in those alternate realities, and we can bring through this energy space and ground it. And then also, like with our ancestral lines, very, very powerful tool is connecting to your ancestral lines of light, because it's essentially your chain of connection between you and source, because we all are our collected energy of all that have come before us.
Right.
I'm not just here and those are the people that were there, but we're actually, it's like a plant. I see and feel it like a living plant. We're like the end of the plant, the fruit of the plant. No, like I have a daughter, so she's like a new branch starting to grow, and she's far more capable than I will ever be. Like, to see her grow and proliferate into what she's meant to be is...
I know. She's going to be... whatever... It doesn't matter what she's doing, but whatever she's doing is going to be... just change the world. She's so impactful. I can feel it. Yeah.
I feel that, too. And
yeah.
it makes me happy, and my ego mind, my dad mind, a little scared.
Of course.
She's going to be a
Naturally.
powerful MOSHI priestess.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, before we cut off here, what it's coming through for me and is of interest to a lot of people. A lot of people want to know about the personal habits or self-care of other healers, of what people do. So if you want to touch on that, what does Sam do to keep herself healthy, connected, and aligned?
Absolutely. Well, I guess I'll just start at the beginning of my day. I wake up and I breathe.
Me too.
And I personally am drawn to, and I usually love breathing with you, and if I can't do it at the time you're doing it, I will just save it and watch it, because it's so powerful to do it in that community that you have created online. So I'm so grateful for that. So freaking grateful for that. Like, he's doing it for free, everybody.
Thank you.
Like, what? Get your butts on there, because nobody, you got to go to retreats and pay buku bucks for this stuff. And
I have mini retreats 3 times a week.
Yep. I know.
For free. I might ask for donations. Please donate.
As you should. As you freaking should. It's amazing. So that's what the first thing I do. And I do it then at least 2 other times throughout the day. And I'm really drawn to intermittent fasting. It's not for everybody, but it's for a lot of people. So I do that. I really like to get some sort of exercise in the beginning of the day, because I truly believe if you are moving in your physical body, other things are going to be moving around you and towards you in that way. So if you can get movement in your physical body, then you'll see other things start moving throughout your life. And that'll make sense once you start doing it. So I do, whether that's just some mornings I love my sleep. So some mornings looks like 10 minutes of yoga. Other mornings I make it to a workout class and whatever. So it just looks different every day, but there is some movement, even if it's gentle stretching. And then, as far as, usually I'm at work a lot of hours throughout the day. When I'm not, I'm always in nature. I purposely bought a house right by the Rocky River Reservation because that's what refills my spirit. I have to connect with nature on every sense. And then my diet really consists of a lot of, I like to call it dirty keto. I don't really believe in diets by any means, but I do believe that, when you're in your truest, most loving form, you will find the foods that gravitate towards that and feed that. So for me, that is a lot of protein. It is good animal protein. It's one that I respect and know go through this process, unlike a lot of the ones you'll find in fast food restaurants and things like that. I don't love cooking, to be honest. I wish I did. But I do try and get my veggies in, even if it is through, full form nutrition and some sort of pill, which you don't need to take pills, right? We don't need to take pills for anything. However, I don't always get Brussels sprouts and broccoli in my everyday diet. So I will take it in a pill form if I need to. And I do a lot of that every day because liver is also a beautiful form of vitamin B4, which we absolutely need for our heart. Well, liver is disgusting to me. I will not eat it, so I take it in a pill form. And I don't know. I think that kind of consists of it. And I love my dog so much. I come home and one of my dogs, I found her when I didn't know she was pregnant, and she had 3 babies on my boyfriend's bed. And so that was fun. We had 10 weeks of puppies, but that dog is like probably in a dumpster. Had fleas, was about to die. She is love. She is pure love. So I go to her and I connect with her, and she reminds me of like, take away the thoughts, take away the bill paying, take away the stress. Like, she's love, and she just brings that to me, and I love that dog so much. And it's simple. Like, the simpler the better, right? Mm-hmm. So I try and keep it simple.
Yeah, because you keep it simple, then it's accessible, you do it.
Exactly.
All those things.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sam, we want to thank you so much for being here in this space. And
Yes,
we look forward to an update in a future time.
I can't wait.
As we move along our journey,
Cool.
because I can tell that we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
All of us have
Sam is going to be one of the newest members of the board of the Ministry of
Heck yeah,
Shamanic
I
Healing
am.
and Integration.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's something I dreamed
Honored.
of right away. Remember, I came right to you. I was like, I know somebody that should be a board member of what we're doing.
Cool.
She fits right in what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Because that's how I see you. You can be a DC or anything else you want to be in
Doesn't
that.
matter.
You're a shaman. That's how I recognize you,
Thank you.
a shamanic practitioner. Because
Yeah, I felt
you're using all
that
of these
energy.
medicine ways. Yeah.
Immediately, as soon as I met her.
I'm so grateful. I love you guys. Thank you.
We love
too.
you too so much, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to thank you all so much for being here and watching this episode. Thank you. Please check out the MOSHI website. What's the MOSHI website, Dave?
MOSHILove.org. You can find our membership link on there. There's multiple tiers. You will get access to our events at a discount, depending on what tier you sign up for, as well as we're going to be putting together a lot of online content, guided meditations and things
Teachings. We're working on a course right now to help people become quantum shamans, people who are open to learn about shamanism, learn about energy, learn about healing from different teachers, because we're going to incorporate all of these people we have with us to help us create a web of systemic healing.
Yes.
That's the idea.
The mycelium.
The mycelium of the universe.
And Sam, would you like to give yourself a plug here? Where can people?
Where can
Oh, absolutely. So BahanNaturalHealth.com. That is my website. If you're interested in some of the nutritional things, I would love to talk to you first, but Natural Health Gateway is my other website for that connection. And my office is located in Lakewood. I'm right on Detroit Avenue, right across from St. Ed's. I would love to meet you, see you in whatever capacity is going to be best for you and myself. And I can't wait, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sam.
you.
Yep.
And we'll put these links in the description for anybody that's
Yes.
looking for them. I recommend it fully, and you'll see me recommend that often. Go visit Dr. Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love you all so
Love
much.
you.
Love you guys.
Bye.
This has been the Quantum Shamans presented by MOSHI with David and Anthony. We look forward to seeing you next week for more insight into who you are and your place in the universe.